Well, greetings everyone. Good to see everybody today. My message for today for this study, the title of it, you can see it online here, but the title of it is called Preparation. And I've given some thought to this about where things are going these days. We live in a very unusual period of time right now. And what preparation, the definition of it is pretty interesting. It's the activity of getting ready for some future act or event. That's definition one. Definition two is the cognitive process of thinking about what you will do in the event of something happening. Okay? So, to put it in context, especially here at Sabbath services, you know, many people, not only here but out in the world, believe that we're living in what's called the last days. And before the return of Yahshua Messiah. And when he comes back, his object is to take command, really, of the governance of the entire world. That's what's going to happen. Lots going to happen before that. Lots going to happen during that. But that's the objective. And he told us what it'd be like at the end of this age in no uncertain terms in Matthew chapter 24, which is really, it's kind of, I would say Matthew 24 is the core of what I'm going to speak about, you know, today. But there are a lot of things that are going on. And you really can't get a handle on so much of what I'm talking about by watching TV or listening to the news. You can certainly get a certain amount of it. But I think the ball is really starting to roll. That's just my opinion at this point. But the question that came to my mind as I was trying to get ready for this today, this study, is, what are we doing to prepare for the difficult times that could likely come to pass in our lifetime? Maybe even in the next year or two. Now, that's pretty short order. Years go by pretty fast. And the older you get, the faster they go by. I don't know. So, I think the definition of the word tribulation is important to know, and because you hear a lot about the tribulation. Well, a lot of people think that there's going to be a rapture before this time period starts and whatnot. But I looked the word up in the Tanakh, and I found out that, in other words, in the Old Testament, the Tanakh, and I found that it not only means tribulation, but it also means words like anguish, I can't get my mouth to function, anguish and distress. That's two other definitions of the word used in the Old Testament. It doesn't appear much in the Old Testament. And then in the New Testament, basically it simply means pressure. Pressure, like things are getting tough, or the excitement is growing, or whatever. Kind of like, pressure is the word is translated, but it also has other words, like in this case, in the Greek, is anguish, in other words, negative stuff, burden, persecution, or basically trouble. They were all included in the Strong's definition, but the basic word means pressure. So, speaking to myself, because I'm interested in this myself, as well as to everyone here and out on the outreach, of course, I have to ask, how prepared are we for the events that could likely come to pass in my lifetime? I'm 80 years old. I'm almost 80. Well, I am. I'll be 80 years old in a few more months. And so what could happen in my lifetime? Well, you know, in the past, everything's just kind of gone along as usual. You know, life has its ups and downs and all that sort of thing, but I think we're moving into a time right now that is, well, and I've talked about this several times before. The population is quite large now by comparison with any time in history that we know of. We don't know what it was like before the Noachian flood, but there's a lot of people on this earth, and all these people eat a lot of food, consume a lot of stuff, and you know, it's a busy place, and a lot of the resources and so on are being pretty rapidly used up. Curtis, you had your hand up.
Yeah, for what it's worth, given the world population right now, if we're given the population density of New York City, if you put everyone on the face of the earth in a situation of population density of New York City, you can fit everyone in an area about the size of Texas.
So I don't quite understand. If you had if the population of New York City,
if you had the population density
of New York City,
you could put the whole world in an area the size of
put the whole, okay,
population in an area the size of Texas.
But
I don't want to squeeze everybody.
No, you don't want to squeeze everybody on Earth into Texas. That would be a really crowded place, I think. But yeah, well, there's a big world out there. There's a lot of this planet. It's well made. It's designed to handle a lot of people. But the point is that the populations is growing, and if you've been, you know, paying attention to the news, you know, it's as if the news media is set on a course to frighten everybody. Every time I turn on the TV, which is not all that often, but in the morning I'll get up and I'll just see what's going on, then I'll just turn it right off again. But I do watch it sometimes in the afternoon, and it seems like everything that I see on the TV is trying to scare you. And so, and at every level, I'm not talking about, you know, us adults, I'm also talking about the kids. And so, and it's as if they just, like I said, they want to scare us over this pandemic. It really, I mean, that's what's really the big issue right now. Then we have the shutdowns that have been as a result of all that, and the control of the public. I mean, I can't imagine what damage this has done to so many of the businesses and so on. And then, of course, the COVID vaccination, that's you know, supposed to prevent the disease, but in fact, they still get the disease, or, you know, or a close facsimile of whatever the disease is. So it's like they're just 24/7 shoving all this down your throat in a very frightening way. I was at the air show up in Oshkosh here back in August, and I was sitting at a bar with a fellow, and we were watching the TV, and not 30 seconds would go by without something negative said, either about COVID or about this or about that. It was all negative. And so we're now beginning to have shortages of goods and services. Has anybody had problems getting anything? Yeah, my son's in the air conditioning business. I was in the air conditioning business. An evaporator coil is a real standard item that goes with an air conditioning system. And he bought the last one, the very last one of this very large air conditioning supply company. And you can go into places like auto parts houses, places where they sell things like, you know, knickknacks and piddling stuff, and the shelves are got blank spaces in them. Things are getting hard to get. The services of all sorts are being affected by all this. And today, you know, I looked up the fact that there are right now I don't know if it's today's date or whatever, but there are 56 of these huge, these monstrous shipping containers, ships. They're out off the coast of the ones I was looking at. These 56 were off the coast of LA, but I understand it's pretty general around all the major shipping ports around the United States, and they're stuck off the coast out there. And according to the website I went to, there are usually none, or maybe one that's still out there waiting to come in. So these things got all this stuff that we use, and it's not being delivered. I don't know what the reason is. All I know is that's what I read. So you know, there are things going on behind the scenes, I feel, and the news is that it's not good. It's not a positive thing. And money, well, they're playing with the banks too, I understand. Money is just, you know what it is. Money is just a piece of paper. It's got a number on it of some sort. And most of it is based on debt. Debt is humongous. And you know, if this keeps going and anybody flinches, there's going to be a lot of people could be in trouble. I mean, everybody's got, thankfully I don't, but most people have a car loan, they've got a home loan, they've got credit card debt of one sort or another. And you know, if the supply of money gets cut off, it could be really rough on a lot of people. So anyway. And there's something else that I noticed, this was fairly recently. There are a lot of things in the occult that are really on the increase. And I think we should expect to see more occult symbolism and occult activity as you know, we go through the time here. I mean, I don't know what the schedule is, but I really do feel like we're toward the end of the age. You know, one of the things that I noticed is this one-eye sign. Does everybody know what I'm talking about with the one-eye sign?
It's on the dollar, isn't it?
Huh?
Is it the dollar bill?
No. Yes, it's on the, thank you. Yeah, it's on the dollar bill.
That's the top of that triangle.
Yeah, that's one place where it is, but it's the prominence of people in the entertainment industry now. You'll see them, and I don't want to do it, but they'll cover one eye or make some kind of a symbol with their eye, or they'll paint their eye dark or something like that. I don't know if you've noticed it, but if you haven't, you know, go by and look at, like when you're in the grocery store or something like that, the magazine rack or whatever, and look and see how many people are making that sign. I mean, that sign is, let's see. Yeah, well, anyway, it's an occult sign, basically. That's all I'm really trying to say. And so I think there's going to be an upswing in that. And somebody gave me a video to watch, and I really believe that there'll be a whole lot more stories about UFOs and other phenomenon, you might call it, along with unusual things concerning artificial intelligence. I mean, that's really a strange thing to contemplate what some of the things that they're planning to do with it. I don't plan to go into detail on any of that, but this artificial intelligence, I think, is going to make a big influence on our life as we go along. And a lot of other things maybe we've never even heard of yet. I mean, technology is increasing so fast you can't keep up with it all. And the other thing is we've got a lot of enemies in this country now. I mean, the Chinese are doing all sorts of things over there, and with all the stuff that's going on, it's really hard to keep everything in perspective. You know, I think about that pesky verse in the Bible that says, unless those days would be shortened, that no flesh would have been saved. Which I'm going to read about that here again in a minute. No flesh? I don't know if that means, you know, that all humanity will be could be wiped out, or whether it would mean all life. I really don't know. But I think it has to do with humanity. We have so much atomic nuclear arsenals around the world that if they all went off at one time, we'd turn into a pile of sand, I believe. Maybe it'd be a pile of glass. But anyway. So anyway, what I want to do is I want to get started by going ahead and reading Matthew chapter 24. The idea is it's a Bible study, and I think what I'm going to get my message across pretty well just by reading these various scriptures. Most of them everybody has read before, except maybe some on the outreach out there. And then I'll read several scriptures that I think that are important in this advanced world of maximum change. And I mentioned artificial intelligence. I don't know where all that's going. And that artificial intelligence can be used for both good and evil. So let's keep that in mind. So I'm using the World English Bible exclusively, so it may be a little bit slightly different than yours, but I like the context of it. So anyway, Matthew 24 verse 1. I'm going to read the entire chapter here, and if anybody has anything they want to say about it or whatever, just raise your hand. But this is the study. So it starts off with Joshua. He went out from the temple, and he was going on his way, and the disciples came to him to show him the buildings of the temple. Now, I'm like Dennis and others that I believe that the temple was not on the Temple Mount, but was actually about maybe a quarter of a mile south of there on the city of David, and it was wiped completely off when the Romans came in 70 A.D. Now, in the Temple Mount, where I'll mention, well, let me go a little further and I'll just tell you what I have in mind. But he answered, "Do you not see all these things? Most assuredly I tell you, there will not be left here one stone on another that will not be thrown down." Well, the comment I was going to make is that I've been there several times, like 5 times, and I've been on Mount Olive, and I've looked over at the Temple Mount area, and more than that, I've walked all over it and even under it in places. I'm talking about the current day where some of the stuff is just buried. But anyway, there are huge stones that are still one on top of another. There's one particular stone. I have a picture of Marvin at one end of it, a kid by the name of Bill at the other end of it. And that stone, I can't, to you all in here, I'd explain, it's the length of this room and the size of that wall. And they're stacked on top of each other. I think we measured it out at 44 feet long and about 9 feet thick and high. How they moved that thing, I have no idea. But anyway, so that's not the temple, because it says right here, not one stone on another will be thrown down. So that's why I believe that the temple was actually at the city of David. That what you're seeing there is the Antonia Fortress, is what it amounts to. So anyway, as he sat on the Mount of Olives, and that was the view that I was just explaining, because that's where I saw this from. As he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came privately saying, "Tell us when these things will be, and what's the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" And of course, would be that we're still in that same age, even though it's 2,000 years from the time he said this. Joshua answered them, "Be careful that no one leads you astray." Well, I think we need to keep that in mind as we go through this and think about, what's going on today. "For many will come in my name," representing him, "saying, I am the Messiah," or maybe even they are saying that they are the Messiah, "and lead many astray. The religious world certainly fits into that scenario. And you will hear of wars and rumors of war, and see that you are not troubled. For all of this must happen, but the end is not yet. So, even though all this is going to take place, and there's certainly a lot of tribulation and stress in any war, especially if you're in that war. People have been dying like crazy, ever since the beginning of time in wars. Verse 7, for nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, and plagues, and earthquakes in various places. Well, he's really talking about the end of the age. We know that all these things have happened before, but this is when you pile it all together, I think is really what he's getting at here. So, but all these things are the beginning of pains. What he means by that is it's going to get worse. Then they will deliver you up to oppression and will kill you. Now this is at the right in the middle of this particular time, apparently. They will deliver you up to oppression. They're not going to like you. And they will kill you. And you will be hated by all of the nations for my name's sake. Now, we know that there's false religion that's going to be coming into vogue as we go along through this particular period of time. But I believe that means people that are just like us. So we have to deal with this. And then many will stumble. Well, that's kind of a serious thing. And will deliver up one another and will hate one another. I can't understand that scenario, especially as I'm standing in this room, but it's probably a general statement when it comes to those that claim to be followers of Messiah, or Jesus, or whatever. It says, many false prophets will arise and will lead many astray. Well, I think we've seen that a great deal already, but it's going to get worse. Because iniquity, which is lawlessness, because iniquity will be multiplied, and the love of many will grow cold. Personally, I see that in society now. I see it a fair amount. I mean, especially with this, these mandates of the masks and all that stuff. I mean, I remember not long ago, I got out of my car. I didn't have a mask on. I never, just like in here, nobody wears them. This guy had one, and we're outside in the parking lot. I'm 10 feet away from him, and I get out of my car, and this guy goes walking backwards, and obviously he was afraid of being around me. But he who endures to the end, the same will be saved. So that's the objective. And I'll get to how we should be able to handle this thing as we go along. This gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world for a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. And I've thought about this verse a lot, and I really do believe that the Bibles that we have, whether it be electronic like eSword, or the paper Bibles that we all have been reading all from the very beginning, it's pretty evident that the gospel, which is in that book, has been distributed worldwide. And I believe that that's one of the reasons why I think we're right at the end, because it has been distributed. That gospel has gone out. Now, whether it's been delivered in truth is another story. But the good news is about the kingdom. And a lot of people don't understand what the kingdom is, of course. So anyway, and then verse 15, it says, when therefore you see the abomination of desolation, which was spoken of through Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, and then it says, let the reader understand, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. So that's kind of a signal when you see something like this happen. And of course, can't imagine this happen because they have not built this holy place yet. I think it's a figure of speech, but the Jews have been wanting to build a third temple. And so I think that will be the marker, personally. I talked to Marvin Wilson about that, and I think he's pretty much on the same page, that's got to happen first. And I think really the ball's going to start rolling real fast when that happens. But, we'll just wait and see. And then it continues, it says, then those that are in Judea flee to the mountains. In other words, get out of Dodge, get away from Jerusalem. Let him who is on the housetop not go down without and take things that are in his house, and let him who is in the field not return back to get his clothes or his belonging. But to those who are with child and nursing mothers in those days, woe to those that are nursing children. Pray that your flight be not in the winter time nor on the Sabbath, for then there will be great oppression, pressure, if you will, great oppression such as not been from the beginning of the world until now, nor ever will be. And pardon me while I scratch my ear. I can't imagine exactly what it was like before the Noachian flood, but it was pretty serious what they were doing, or Yahweh would not have destroyed everybody. But he said he'd never do that again. That's what the reason for the rainbow and all that. But it says, great oppression such has not been from the beginning of the world until now, no, and never will be. So I'm not sure what the oppression is, but it's going to be I'm sure it's going to be a hatred, at least by the establishment of people like us, the believers. But it's going to continue on, because the next verse says, unless those days had been shortened, no flesh would have been saved. Well, what that means is that there would be no person to survive, whatever it is that's coming. If Yahweh didn't step in the middle of it and stop it, can you imagine how bad, what technology or whatever would take place that could destroy everybody? So anyway, but for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. So in order to have a kingdom, you have to have subjects. I'm speaking about the kingdom of Yahweh. You have to have subjects. If you're going to have subjects, well, you got to have people. So people are going to live over into that age. Not everybody's going to be wiped out, but I really do believe that, with 7.5 billion people on this planet, 500,000 people, that's what the New World Order wants, is 500,000 people on this planet. But, there's got to be a root stock that's going to be moved over into that period of time when the kingdom is set up. So, for the elect's sake, the days will be shortened. Then if any man tells you, behold, here is the Messiah, or there, don't believe it, for there will arise false messiahs, false messiahs and false prophets, and they will show great signs. So we have to pay attention to that. They will show great signs and wonders as to lead astray, if it were possible, even the elect. We're going to have to be pretty sharp on what Scripture says, what the Bible, the New Testament says, what these warnings that Joshua has given. To be, be careful that we're not tripped up and sucked into this thing. And then he says, behold, I have told you beforehand. If therefore they tell you, behold, he's in the wilderness, don't go out. But behold, he's in the inner chambers, don't believe it. For as the lightning comes forth from the east, as it's seen even to the west, so will it be at the coming of the Son of Man. You're going to know it. And so will the rest of the world. For wherever the carcass is, there will also be vultures that be gathered together. Isn't that an interesting way that he put that? That's a pretty ugly comment. Yeah. Okay. So, find my place here. Yeah.
Back up when he says, when he also warns, when people say, oh look, there he is, he's in the inner chambers. Don't believe him. What's the implication there? What inner chambers?
He's in the temple?
Bingo.
Oh, yeah. Well, we've discussed this many
I know,
times.
that's,
No, I'm quite convinced there will be a temple. They're gonna build something. They're gonna start the sacrifices, and the sacrifices will be stopped by this character that's coming along. Okay. So in verse 29 it says, but immediately after the oppression of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, and the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Everybody's going to know this. It's going to be really bizarre based on just this right here. I mean, I go outside and look at night and look up, and I look at the sky, you know, during the day from my back porch. And what this is saying here, this is really going to be irregular. So then I'm in verse 30, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of the sky with power and great glory. I can't imagine what that's going to look like. He will send out his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, and from one end of the sky to the other. So now, verse 32, now from the fig tree learn this parable. When its branches has now become tender and puts forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. Even so, you also, when you see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. So that's when you really get a little apprehensive. Most assuredly, I tell you, this generation, well, how long is the generation? 30 years, 35 years? Something like that. What do they call a generation? Anyway, it's a period of time. I think it's about a third of the century is what I think it amounts to. So, this generation will not pass away until all these things are accomplished. So, it's going to be in a shorter period of time, maybe, than some might think. But anyway, it says, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. So we can take Matthew 24 to the bank. But no one knows of that day and hour, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. Now as the days of Noah were, so will it be at the coming of the Son of Man. You know, there are only 8 people that lived through that one. So when there's a remnant, I mean, there's going to be a remnant, but there will be most likely more people than just 8 that are going to survive. I really do believe that. For as in those days, verse 38, for in those days, which were before the flood, they were eating and drinking and marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark. Now, in other words, they were just going their day-to-day business. Wasn't anything particularly unusual about it. He goes into this ark, sitting on dry land out in the middle of nowhere, and then it starts to rain. And they did not know until the flood came and took them all away. So will it be at the coming of the Son of Man. In other words, business is going to be pretty much as usual, apparently. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that are oppressed. There's a lot of things that are evil and rotten that are going to be going on. But still, you know, the day-to-day thing is going to continue to go on. And then verse 40, then 2 men will be in a field, and one will be taken and one will be left. And 2 women grinding at the mill, and one will be taken and the other one left. So it says, watch, therefore, for you do not know in what hour your master comes. So when all this stuff all converges together is when you really have to be vigilant. We want to make sure we've got plenty of oil in those lamps. But know this, that if the master of the house had known what watch of the night the thief was coming, he would have watched, and he would have allowed his house, would not have allowed his house to be broken into. Therefore also be ready, for in an hour that you do not expect, the Son of Man will come. So just be ready. We need to be ready always, so no matter what, as followers of Yeshua. I said Yeshua, I meant Joshua. I had a reason for why I said that. But anyway, most assuredly I tell you that he will set him over all that he has. But if that evil servant should say in his heart that my master delays his coming, and begins to beat his fellow servants and eat and drink with the drunken, the master of that servant will come in a day when he does not expect it, and in an hour when he doesn't know it. And I will cut him to pieces and appoint his portion with the hypocrites. This is where the weeping and grinding of teeth will be, gnashing of teeth in other versions. So Matthew 24 is really a synopsis of what's going to happen at the end of the age. And, well, actually, it's also the details of it. So the idea is to prepare ourselves for that particular time. That's the whole reason for the subject here. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over and read what I believe is the best of the Psalms to put our faith in, and that would be Psalm 91. And I'm going to read that too. I just feel like it's going to be good. It's good to go over these things. Let me explain. I had very little time to put this together today. My wife hit me with a garage sale that she wanted to have, and I have been one busy guy. So, and on top of that, all the hand surgery done, got that out of the way. My fingers work well now.
Nice job.
Yeah. Psalm 91. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. That's a fantastic verse. And I will say of Yahweh, He is my refuge and my fortress, my Elohim in whom I trust. For He will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. Folks, there is a deadly pestilence going around, and it's not just COVID. I may try to go into detail after we get off YouTube on that. I've put something together that I've been working on for months, and I now have 92 videos that explain exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, verse 3. For He will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence, and He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will take refuge. His faithfulness is your shield and your rampart. We can count on it. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor the arrow that flies by day. Now, as we go through Matthew 24, there's going to be a lot of that. I mean, it may not be the same thing as arrows or terrors. Terrors, yes, maybe. I mean, if people are coming after you because of what you believe, or that you won't do certain things, or whatever, it could get really rough. And that's the reason for this particular psalm here. And the other thing is the pestilence in verse 6, that walks in darkness. I want to repeat that. Nor the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor the destruction that wastes at noonday. And this is the reason why. And I sincerely believe you can bank on this next verse. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand. Think about that. 1,000 people dead, right next to you. I mean, you can see them, they're everywhere. Stinks. And 10,000 out yonder. There's a reason for this psalm. I really believe a sincere reason for this. Because I believe, I mean, there's been a lot of wars and a lot of other things that have happened down through the ages that this psalm would apply to. But the Bible, as it says in the book of Daniel, I don't have it, but I can quote it. In the 3rd verse, it says that seal the book until the time of the end. What book? It's this Bible. That's the book that was sealed. I really believe that to be the case. The Bible has now been published worldwide. It's everywhere in every language. So that it's not the book of life that he's talking about. He's talking about the books you have on the table here or on your computer or whatever nowadays. I really believe that's what he means. 1,000 may fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand. For whatever reason, it could be from pestilence, but it could be from all those other things that we read too. It could be from war. It could be from earthquakes. It could be from whatever. But what I want you to hang on to is the last part of the verse. But it will not come near you. You will only look with your eyes and see the recompense of the wicked. You know, we're not. I don't think it's our privilege to distinguish all of what wickedness might be. Yahweh may look at wickedness a little differently than we do. So when it says the recompense of the wicked, we'll just leave that to him, is what I think we need to do. I mean, we're to love one another and we're to love our neighbor as ourselves. And it says, because you have made Yahweh your refuge and the Most High your dwelling place, no evil shall happen to you. Neither shall any plague come near your dwelling. Is there a plague right now? So we have to have faith. And also, you know, if anybody suspects, Dennis has said this before, and I'm going to say it. If you suspect you really have a health problem, one that might turn into something that you don't like, or you know that might be threatening your life, ask to be anointed. We're not coming unless somebody asks. You have to ask. I'm a witness to it. I'm here, standing right here. I didn't realize it was that close, but I'll never forget that. For he will give his angels charge over you. Now, I don't know how many angels there are, but all I know is that to know that the angels will have charge over me, to guard you in all your ways, gives me a great comfort. That's what keeps me from being stressed out. Because this age, if all this stuff comes to happen, this is going to be tremendously stressful. And so we can rest in this. That's my whole point. Just, you know, relax. What goes on out there doesn't concern us, even though we see it. Verse 12, they will bear you up on their hands so that you will not dash your foot against a stone. You're not even going to stumble over this thing. You will tread on the lion and the cobra, and you will trample the young lion and the serpent underfoot. Because he has set his love on me, therefore I will deliver him, and I will set him on high, because he has known my name. I would say that that's pretty important to know his name. And he will call on me, and that's important too. And I will answer him, and I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. Hallelujah. I will satisfy him with long life and show him my salvation. Boy, my age, I like that. It made good sense to me. Okay, now I want to keep going on with the same theme here. Let's go to Psalm, the third Psalm, and you're gonna hear a lot of familiar things in these next two Psalms. Okay. Psalm 3. Yahweh, how my adversaries have increased. Many are those who rise up against me. And in the last days, we're going to be very unpopular, those that believe in Yahshua and Yahweh. Many are they who say of my soul, there is no help for him in Yahweh. But you, Yahweh, are a shield around me, my glory, and the one who lifts up my head. I cry to Yahweh with my voice. That's the way we do it. And he answers me out of his holy hill. I said, I laid myself down and slept, and I awakened, for Yahweh sustains me. In other words, you had a restful sleep in the middle of the turmoil. And I will not be afraid of tens of thousands of people who have set themselves against me on every side. I'm reading this because I really believe that this is something maybe we've overlooked a little bit as to how bad it could get. Then in verse 7 he says, arise, Yahweh, save me. Just ask him, save me. My Elohim, for you have struck all of my enemies on the cheekbone. He gave him a left hook. You have broken the teeth of the wicked. Salvation belongs to you, Yahweh. Your blessing be on your people. And it's got Selah at the end of it. That's really great. Okay, I need to move along here. Psalm 61. Now I'm going to try to go through this. This won't take very long. It's not a very long one. You know the words to this one too. Hear my cry, Yahweh. Listen to my prayer. From the end of the earth I will call to you. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. It will be Yahshua. For you have been a refuge for me, a strong tower from the enemy. I will dwell in your tent forever, or tabernacle, and I will take refuge in the shelter of your wings. For you, Yahweh, have heard my vows. In other words, we've agreed to what he says. And you have given me a heritage of those who fear your name. That heritage is so wonderful. I mean, it's right with the disciples and the apostles. You will prolong the king's life. His years shall be for generations. He shall be enthroned in Yahweh's presence forever. Appoint your loving kindness and truth that they may preserve him. I will sing praises to your name forever, that I may fulfill my vows daily. Now I'm going to go to one more that's going to be, it's in the New Testament. It's going to be, again, one of these last days scenarios. And Paul wrote to the Thessalonians and explained part of the story that we need to watch, because so far this has never happened, and somehow the Apostle Paul, Shaul, was inspired to write this particular letter. And so let's go to 2 Thessalonians 2nd chapter. I want to read this, because this ties in with everything that I've been talking about. It says, now, brothers, concerning the coming of our Master Yahshua, Messiah, and our gathering together to him, that would be in the last days, we ask you not to be quickly shaken in your mind, or be troubled, either by spirit or by word, or by letter as from us, saying that the day of Messiah has come. And I just think it's brilliant that Yahweh or Joshua inspired Paul to write this, and for us, because it really didn't apply all that much to them back then. Obviously, the early church was persecuted quite a bit, especially when around 35 AD. But anyway, it says not to be quickly shaken in mind or troubled, either by spirit or word, by letter from us, saying that the day of Messiah had come. In other words, it just hasn't so far. So let no one deceive you in any way, for it will not be, unless the departure or the apostasy or this falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of destruction. He who opposes and exalts himself against all that is called, here's that word, God, or that is worship, so that he sits as God in the temple that they're going to build. They haven't built it yet, but I'm sure that they will, in the temple. I want you to keep in mind that this temple is not Yahweh's temple. It's a temple they're going to build for Yahweh, but it's not their temple, not his temple. Setting himself up as Yahweh, or at least maybe as Messiah, I don't know, but I'm trying to use the correct word there, and I believe it was Yahweh. It says, do you not remember that when I was still with you, I told you these things? Now you know what is restraining him, to the end that he may be revealed in his own season. Well, I wish I knew what that meant, what that means. I don't. Who's restraining him? For the mystery of lawlessness already works. Only there is one who restrains until he is taken out of the way. Well, again, I wish I knew what that means, but I don't. Does anybody have a clue?
I believe it's Michael the Archangel, Bob.
Huh?
I believe it's Michael the Archangel that does that. He is one.
Curtis said he thinks it's the Archangel.
Because there's a couple, 2 or 3 places in Scripture where he is addressed as having a role just exactly like that.
Okay.
So he's what we have. One is in the book of Daniel.
Right. Okay, that's as good as anything I've heard. So anyway. Okay, so verse 8. Then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the master will kill with the breath of his mouth, and bring to nothing by the brightness of his coming. It's not going to be a hidden thing, that's for sure. Even those whose coming is according to the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders. So there's going to be a big show that they're going to be able to put on. Can deceive people. And with all deception. Well, that's what I meant to say. I didn't read that yet. But it's going to be very deceptive. And all the deception of wickedness for those who are being lost. We won't have anything to do with it. It's not our business. Because they did not receive the love of the truth that they might be saved. So because of this, Yahweh sends them a working of error, strong delusion, what most versions have, that they should believe a lie. Well, so much of religion is a lie already. That's what's going to make it easy. And that they might be judged who do not believe in the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. Well, the truth is the Scripture is just the way we have it. Unrighteousness is anything that's not of the law. The law defines righteousness. All thy commandments are righteousness. Verse 13, but we are bound to always give thanks to Yahweh for you, brothers, loved by the Master, because Yahweh chose you from the beginning. That's it, we were chosen from the beginning, for salvation through the sanctification of the Spirit and the belief in the truth. Now, I'm going to hurry as fast as I can. I'm almost there. So 2 Thessalonians chapter 14, verse 14 here, just to finish up, to which he called you through our gospel for the obtaining of glory for our Master Yahshua Messiah. So then, brothers, stand firm, and hold the traditions which were taught by us, whether by word or by letter. Well, we get it by letter because we have it all written in the New Testament. Now our Master Yeshua Messiah himself and Yahweh our Father, who loved us and gave us eternal comfort and good hope through grace or favor, may they comfort your hearts and establish you in every good work and every word. Okay, so that's all the scriptures I've got. The reason for this study today is to remind us that things are likely to change drastically over the next few years. I feel it in my bones. You know, we never know, but we can see signs of the pressure increasing even now with this particular pandemic and the control of the population in many nations around the world and in this country. I mean, what they've got going on in Australia right now is criminal, in my opinion. They're forcing everybody to be vaccinated over there. 2 years ago, I could have imagined. I'm going to ask this question. 2 years ago, could you have imagined a government in this country handing out a mask mandate, or a government having a mandatory vaccine to put a foreign substance, unapproved substance at that, into your body, even against your own will or your religious conviction? My mother was Christian Scientist, and she wouldn't do anything that would, in the way of medication at all. I'm not saying that was a good thing or not, but you know, it was her choice, and it's happening in Australia right now. That's what I was going to say. The frontline nurses and doctors that work the COVID patients without any so-called vaccine are now mandated to have it. You know, they've worked all that through the pandemic thing. But now they're being mandated to have it, even though that they have antibodies and all this other stuff and medications that will take care of it that are more effective than the jab is. All sorts of things in society and the economy are rapidly changing, and nobody in leadership is doing anything to help the situation. I must say, it could be just the opposite. The point is that very soon we need to prepare ourselves spiritually and mentally and otherwise, really, to deal with what may happen next. In short, we need to get ourselves close to Yahweh and not in a state of fear. Because as it says in one of our songs, that his servants have been warned. We also, and you know, we read a lot of it just right now. And we also know that fear casts out love. You know, we just covered all of that. We also need to love and support one another. This is critical. In spite of the pressures that we get closer to the end of this particular age, knowing that our Redeemer, Yahshua Messiah, we need to replace fear with the knowledge of the crown of eternal life that we'll receive, you know, ruling the nations. That's our goal, to rule the nations in peace on the other side of this crazy mixed up age that we're in right now. It's the age to come. 1 John 4 verse 18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear has punishment, and he who fears is not made perfect in love. So that's basically it for now. And so we'll be back at 3 o'clock for the next, for the sermon, for the message. Johannes will be up, I think. All right.